So welcome to Pune. We are here this afternoon to discuss climate change and implications for the city of Pune. This is part of a series of national dialogues taking place in India's cities to better understand the implications of climate change for India and her cities. And we are joined by our partners, the local organizations Alert and the British Library Pune. This is a city of 4.5 million people and the 7th largest in the country. Mr. Pradeshi, as the city's leading civic administrator, what's your understanding of the relevance of climate change for the city?
We really need to walk the talk, and there's too much of discussion, too much of argumentation, and too much of basically a discussion-oriented way of tackling problems in India, which doesn't lead to any action finally. So I think we need to go beyond discussion.
Industrialists across the world are now banging the drum of climate change very hard. Just last week at the European Car Show, we had the head of Renault and Nissan said that climate change is now going to be the biggest technical and financial challenge for the auto industry in the 21st century. What's your take on it?
We are talking about a disaster impact. If the temperatures increase by 2 or 3 degrees, we are talking about 90% of human race being wiped out. Automobile industry is a great contributor to the effects of global warming due to CO2. Our vehicles pollute. In fact, they are one of the highest polluters of air.
The primary cause of global warming has been the use of fossil fuels. We know that oil is going to be running out mid-century, not exactly when, but we know roughly mid-century we're going to reach peak oil. You're in the biofuel sector. Can you offer your reflections on what the implications of that are for India's economy?
The point is that these biofuels, are they at the cost of food? So the biggest challenge there is food versus fuel. If you can make biofuel from the waste, agri-waste, I think the efforts are there in that direction, then really we have found a solution. The second is bringing new land or cutting the forest to create biofuels, again is debatable, because you are doing only changing the form of CO2 absorption and in the form of agricultural product which go as a biofuel. But yes, we do believe that the efforts which are going on for waste, algae can produce biodiesel, the cellular biomass like straw and grasses can produce biofuels, are going to be definitely the solutions, and I think world is moving in that direction. By 2020, 20% biofuel is the slogan of most of the countries. And I think this is a very heartening development which is taking place.
We turn to our partners and local consultants and ask them, what are some of the main issues facing the city regarding climate change? And we were given 3 issues. We were told that water pollution and water scarcity is a major issue. The second we were told is that go and film those dumping grounds because solid waste management in the city is a big issue. And the third was the rapid rate of urbanization and everything that that means for the city's green spaces, the health of its built environments, and its use of resources. We went to a part of the city to speak with people and ask ordinary, everyday people about what their understanding was of climate change.
We are still dependent upon fossil fuel. As a result, more of carbon dioxide and some of the gases like carbon tetrachloride, etc. and it is definitely affecting our atmosphere. We are still not able to generate the electricity through alternative energy resources like solar energy, wind energy, nuclear energy. I understand that they are a little bit expensive, and still we are looking at the cheap resources. But if we want to preserve the earth for the posterity, I think this is the time and we have to give a serious thought to it.
मैं एक ऑटो ड्राइवर हूँ और 99 से और आज तक जो क्लाइमेट में चेंज है वो 4-4 के महीने की जगह 5-5 महीने बारिश गिरता है कम्प्लीटली, और हमने आजमाया भी है। और आज जो बारिश हुआ है 19/8/2007 का, तो ग्लास पे इतनी गर्मी आती है धूप की, तो मान लो बारिश के दिन नहीं कि धूप के दिन है, और इतनी गर्मी है कि बारिश गिरता नहीं है, और बारिश गिर गया तो कंप्लीट बारिश ही गिरता है और गर्मी होती नहीं है। इतना क्लाइमेट में चेंज दिख रहा है। लेकिन 99 के पहले जो क्लाइमेट था वो बहुत बढ़िया था, कम्प्लीटली 4-4 महीने ठंडी धूप और बारिश रहने का, इससे कोई तकलीफ या कोई मुश्किल नहीं होने की। अभी जो क्लाइमेट चल रहा है सब 5-5, 6-6 महीने का उल्टा ही चल रहा है, कुछ बता नहीं सकते कैसे तकलीफ होत होती, लेकिन आंखों को गर्मी से।
पुण्याच्या वातावरणामध्ये कमालीचा फरक पडलेला मला दिसला। म्हणजे पुण्यातली जे थंड हवा किंवा एकंदरच आल्हादक वातावरण याचा अभाव मला खूप पटला पुण्यात स्थायिक झाल्यानंतर। याची कारणं अनेक असू शकतील, पण मला जाणवलेली कारणं म्हणजे झाडांचं खूप कमी झालेलं सगळं वातावरणामध्ये, झाडं फार अभावाने फार कमी झालेली आहेत ते एक, आणि दुसरं म्हणजे वाहनांची संख्या अतोनात वाढली आहे, हे दुसरं कारण असं मला वाटतं। म्हणजे पुणे हे एक अतिशय सुंदर शहर, अशी जी काही प्रतिमा होती माझ्या मनामध्ये त्याला खूप तडे गेले। पण मुंबईच्या तुलनेने आज सुद्धा पुणे मला बरं वाटतं, कारण त्याला एक गावाचं स्वरूप आहे आणि हवामानातला बदल हा तितकासा रुचत नसला तरीही पाऊस पडल्यानंतर पुण्याचं मूळ स्वरूप येतं असं कधी कधी वाटतं।
आमच्या इकडे फार उन्हाळा असतो, एवढं काही पाऊस पडत नाही, इकडे फार पाऊस पडतोय, म्हणून इकडे आमच्या इकडे विदर्भामध्ये दुष्काळ असतो, म्हणून तिकडे रोज मजूर काही नसतंय, म्हणून कामधंदा वगैरे इकडे त्याच्यासाठी इकडे येतात लोक, इकडे कामधंदा करतात, तिकडे मग जातात। तेवढं धान्य वगैरे काही पिकत नाही, म्हणूनच लोक शेती वगैरे करतात, शेती वगैरे कामधंदा असतोय म्हणून ते पिकत नाही वगैरे, आणि इकडे लोक येतात। इकडे म्हणजे इकडचं वातावरण वगैरे सर्व चांगलं आहे, पाणी वगैरे चांगलं पडतंय इकडे, म्हणजे उन्हाळ्यातही पाणी पडतंय, हिवाळ्यातही पाणी पडतंय, पावसाळ्यात म्हणजे एकदम पाऊसच सुरूच असतो, म्हणून आमच्या इकडे पाऊस पडत नाही।
Summers in countries which have never known summer, the late arrival of the monsoon, being deluged by rain right here in Pune, a place which was known for very scanty rainfall. Today we have all but destroyed Pune city. The quality of the air is pathetic, it's suffocating. I think respiratory diseases are on the increase, and there are fears now that with the population of the world growing to 9,000 million people, and if a large number of people now aspire to the so-called standard of living of the United States of America, then we are all heading for disaster.
पुणे पूर्वीपासून मी येत असल्यामुळे पुण्यातला पूर्वीचा प्लेझंटपणा नक्कीच आता नाही आहे। साधारणपणे मुख्य म्हणजे गाड्यांवरच लोक घसरतात, पण मला वाटतं गाड्यांपेक्षा कचरा पण एक महत्त्वाचा आहे। कचरा पण क्लायमेटमध्ये नक्कीच घाण पसरवतो आहे। हवामानातला बदल हळूहळू नक्कीच कमी होईल असं मला वाटतंय, कारण सध्या कचऱ्याचं निवारणही सुरू आहे आणि लोक गाड्या पण कमी वापरण्यावर भर देत आहेत। मे बी काही दिवसांनी आपण ह्याच्या गंभीरतेकडे जितके वळू तेवढंच लवकरात लवकर त्याचं सोल्युशन मिळेल असं मला वाटतं।
Tell us that climate change is likely to disrupt rainfall patterns, where we'll have ever more intense rainfall in some parts of the country and declining rainfall in other parts. What kind of approaches are you developing in the city to address potential crisis with water?
We have mapped through a very good consultancy, Primove, the entire hydrological drainage pattern of the city from its catchment areas. There are 3 or 4 ways of looking at it. One is, what do we do with the current stream flow patterns? So yes, we have to remove the ostensible obstructions. More important, we have to ensure that no new obstructions come up. both of which now are factored into our building permission. Still, there are variations against that. The third thing is better preparedness, that despite doing all of this, there will still be floods. So we have to have both the population better prepared, and there are preparedness measures in flows. So we can look at the mitigation measures and the preparedness. In terms of the mitigation, we have to ensure that the new constructions which take place totally factor in the natural flow patterns and do not disturb them. And that can be matched with this prime mover hydrological mapping of the city. Unfortunately, it's still not correlated to the development plan fully. That is, the development plan which is in force doesn't exactly measure all the hydrological streams in the city. So that's the first step that we have taken. Second is, how do you protect the streams? So at least a few identified streams like Ram Nadi, which became very famous. So we have taken up clearing the whole from end to end, fencing the area on both sides and converting it into a green belt from end to end. The second thing is similar proposals citizens groups from Mula Mutha have given us, which is a very good proposal. Wherever land is still not encroached upon, at least take that, convert it into a proper green belt. As per the development plan, these are green belts, but people have somewhere encroached upon it, or somewhere wrong permissions have been given in that. So those need to be demolished. And then we have to look at what's the long-term planning. So we have to look at the catchment areas beyond the city, which are also being built up, and to ensure that there is a natural hydrological cycle out there. So these are the long-term mitigation measures. I think the immediate short-term preparedness is equally important. We have to ensure that no new settlements come up in the river areas. We provide economically weaker section housing, because that's the main cause why people encroach on riverbeds.
And we've seen that while there's some good analysis, there's some thoughtful planning, future planning, but you've been there, you've done it. From your perspective as the former mayor of the city, what's easy and what's difficult in what Mr. Pradesh is talking about?
Unfortunately, in the implementation, we always tend to fail. And I think this kind of awareness needs to be brought on in the city. Some of the effects of climate change is drying of the land. Now, if that is going to happen, maybe we have not faced it yet in Pune, but if that is going to happen, and that is what has been predicted, I think we need to start acting on it right from now.
What's your view from an industry body, say the MCCIA, from the Chamber of Commerce on this? Is there a need for more rules or just better enforcement?
Obviously, better enforcement and implementation, but let me elaborate a little bit. I think our chamber can try and work in partnership with the government. In fact, on the 23rd of September, we are all meeting with the government at our annual conference of the Maratha Chamber to talk about these points, how we can partner each other to try and solve these problems. And the industry will not be found wanting.
It's very important because, all of us as citizens, we need to really understand the scale of the issue. And there's no amount of enforcement and policing which can stop this. So we really need to look at what mindset changes and what sorts of civic responsibilities and ownerships we have for all these public bodies amongst all of us.
In your guises as concerned citizens, activists and entrepreneurs, what we really need to do, as Mr. Pradeshi says, is to change people's mindsets, their sense of ownership of the public space. What may succeed?
Since Pune has got a lot of hills around, there are natural stormwater drains which already exist. Unfortunately, when these stormwater drains become roads at a given point of time, or you allow people to start building on them, then the natural stormwater drain is lost. So because of which there's clogging that happens either on the road or it leads to certain kind of flooding. So that awareness needs to be created. And this in the developmental plan has to be done with missionary zeal, that there's no way in which a stormwater drain which is natural you can build on. The nalas have to be left in the way in which they are. The second thing is, as far as pollutants are concerned, there are two kinds of pollutants. One is a point and a non-point pollutant. In the point and non-point, under the Environment Protection Act, there is something called TMLD, the total maximum daily load. The total maximum daily load is the amount of pollutant a water body can take and still meet quality standards. Now, there are notifications issued where under the Environment Protection Act, local bodies are supposed to publish this every day and monitor it. Now, this is not done. If this is not done, then people are not made aware of what. If you need to create some kind of a degree of alarm in society which creates an awareness.
Have you taken recourse to the Right to Information Act to get this kind of environmental information?
There is no local body that does this or monitors it everybody. None.
To really get people to take ownership of the threat to their public space and their natural goods.
To make the people take the responsibility of what's happening in this space, there are ways we're looking at it 2-3 ways. One is a public-private partnership has to be encouraged. My point is that if there's a centralized body which can handle town planning, collector office, Pune Corporation. They sit together, and once they clear that, such a proposal, I'm sure there will be hundreds of private enterprises will come forward and take one by one many of these activities. Whether it is a Nala Park, or whether it is looking after the pollution dump, or whether it's the cleaning of solid waste, I'm sure there will be industry will be sensitive, because the employees of the industry are staying in the city. So somewhere we have to see that the employees are getting benefited because of these actions. And CSR has become a very important element of all private sector. And that's somewhere it is to be leveraged. I think the authorities are not leveraging it to the best possible extent. This is my most important suggestion. The second part is on the industry side. Industries are definitely looking at saving of utilities or water, power. Processed water is becoming more and more important. Recycle of processed water is going to become mandatory very soon. At least 33% processed water need to be recycled. Now people are getting ready for that, so that the usage is reduced, the effluents are reduced, and effluent treatments are definitely maintained and followed very strictly.
Why is the city failing so abysmally in managing its solid waste problem?
We tend to believe that you first build a house, then you try and figure out how there will be a road there, how the garbage will be disposed and the rest. So that entire planning which is required in terms of if there is a particular area, how is the garbage going to be disposed? How is the access going to be? And then you think in terms of building a house after all that is in place. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. You put the cart in front of the house and you are going to be faced with a problem like this. A. B is when we talk in terms of rubble, especially today, because old buildings are being broken down and that rubble needs to be disposed of somewhere. This rubble itself can be used as a layer for roads, because this can absorb phenomenal amount of water. So if there is an agency which can buy this and use it, recycle it, nobody is going to go and dump it. We need to create avenues, because the truth is, where does it go? Because if you need to build a new building, what happens to the old rubble? We need to have a mechanism in place. We can't just wish it away. Nor can we say that, don't demolish the building and don't build something new. So we need to find a via media there.
What's the city of Pune doing in terms of its innovations in this particular area, Mr. Pradeshi?
But the standard model, which is the first best case, is at least a civic body collects the waste and puts it at a place where it's not visible. Basically, it goes back to the vision of our development that we have in mind. You cannot think that you will have a growth of 10% around Pune and say, oh, but all the problems have a planned solution. There's no solution for many of these things. So we have to have a trade-off between what sort of growth, what sort of economic prosperity that we want to aspire for. We have still not hit the point where all these separated organic waste is being recycled either through biofuel like biogas or biocomposting. So we have to move towards that in one direction and move on the where we cannot segregate it at the point of the dumping and ensure that it is an inert waste. It's not a waste which pollutes the underground water. The real problem is, as you're mentioning, Mr. Ulagiri, that how do you look at each household as a place which generates the waste and which reuses it as much as possible within the house and only minimize. So we haven't reached there both in terms of the planning, and I think it's a very good suggestion that we look backwards in terms of planning that, at least for the bigger societies. And the good news is, yes, there are some who are doing it. We have 2 or 3 very big townships in the city where they are able to recycle most of their organic waste within their own precincts. And this is fantastic, very good news. So we have converted this into model bylaws for our new building permissions for such schemes.
But I think the rag pickers also in Pune are playing a major role in this, because there's a rag pickers association which actually segregates the waste. They play a major role. We need to now in some way motivate them, or get them involved, co-opt them into this system. So.
Let's look again at this important issue of incentivizing people to do the right thing. Clearly just asking them, exhorting them to do the right thing is not enough. You've mentioned some of the ways in which you're trying to institutionalize that. Let's now turn to how industry could play a role in creating schemes that enable people to become recycling entrepreneurs, for example.
I think we should try and project the success story.
In new societies, they are looking at Wi-Fi and all amenities. At the same time, when you are passing this kind of plans, the plans for debris, plans for disposal, I'm sure they must be having some kind of a mechanism or a protocol that they have to strictly follow, and those things, if they are followed strictly, it could be possible.
But unless you make provision for dumping the solid waste, people are going to do that. If you have the provision, then you can have strict penalties for people who are going against the discipline. I think a combination of these two is what could achieve the results.
How can we get the social contract firm in this area so people do not flout the law and dirty the common environment?
People are still very confused. Some of them, yes, are vermicomposting their wet garbage at source somewhere around their areas on their terrace or around the space around their bungalows, things like that. But some of them have to give it to the rag pickers or the fourth-class employees of the corporation. Now, the moment they segregate the garbage into wet and dry, what the municipal corporation does is to mix it up again. So that level of confidence of the citizens that, yes, the municipal corporation also means what it really prescribes is unfortunately missing. And I think that kind of confidence has to be built amongst the citizens and amongst the municipal corporation to see that these laws are strictly adhered to. And that is why I think an effort has to be made. NGOs are working a lot in the city of Pune, but we have to probably reach through schools, tell every school child that you will not pass your examination till you tell your parents to do this. And I think they are the best agents of change.
There is a supply side problem because there is garbage which is going to get collected. Are there areas today, or is there in the DC rules some kind of provision which says that for every X number of societies, there has to be one open space which is reserved to have a garbage bin which is big enough to take the garbage? If an incinerator of some kind can be installed, we don't see those kind of open spaces anywhere.
Where are the politics of this? When is this going to become an electoral issue?
Yes, the politicians are scared of the people. But I think we need to do this more often and probably take these issues and make them realize that we want this to happen for our city.
But the problem is that it's something which needs a very technical and something which needs a very objective assessment, gets really locked up into quite unnecessary political issues.
Having a law is one thing, or saying you're going to fine. How are you going to implement? On one hand, we're saying we don't have enough people to look after the existing problems. Where is this monitoring agency going to come from?
How you can get waste out of the system itself.
Architecturally, I think there needs to be a call that needs to be taken.
In what way is the corporation attempting to bring out the best from the world of architecture when it comes to planning in the right way and designing in the right way for our cities?
We have those norms in place. We are able to evaluate those schemes. We are working with an eco-housing unit from some architecture universities. And now we evaluate all the proposals on this point system. And we are able to give write-offs against the development charges. This is a very unique thing which we started in Pune.
Commercial. People are looking at modern buildings. Modern buildings with glasses, etc. They attract customers. And customers are willing to pay the amounts which will offset the higher costs. We are talking about a balance between the two where the concerned industrialist is taken care of the commercial aspect as well as the eco-housing aspect. He takes care of both.
Is this a change in our traditional consumption pattern that we wish to encourage, or should there be a space for innovations such as choice editing, which is a new phenomenon where companies themselves are choosing to edit out the use of particular substances or the production of particular products? That's for the industrialists, I think, to ask themselves. With regard to the administrators of our city, of course, the question there is, how can you have regimes that actually work to promote people to do the right thing?
Voluntary sort of imposition of these rules will always err in favor of the profit maximum.
So I'm looking at you two because I see that the two of you gentlemen have a great deal of synergy amongst yourselves. You produce the cars and he produces the fuels. When are you two going to get together?
The government has to do many things. You customers who drive vehicles have to do many things, like taking care of the maintenance, etc., so that they don't pollute too much. It's going to be many stakeholders who are going to play a part in trying to see that we have cleaner vehicles.
Something like a green index, if it can be implemented on a voluntary basis to start with and then made compulsory, I think a lot of things can be brought under control. See, ultimately, payments can make a change in the attitude. The body can do evaluation of various establishments, buildings, localities to decide what kind of rating. The rating is better for the greenness, less taxes. Rating is lower, higher taxes. Like that, something I think slowly it can come. In corporation, there is a civil servant, there is a politician. There is no advisory committee of some senior citizens who are not having a vested interest, who can have some teeth and they can perhaps act as a sort of a advisory body, but with some teeth.
Now we know at an all-India level that deforestation has a larger carbon footprint than all of our power use altogether. Why is this subject getting such little attention?
One has failed to understand why there is political opposition for it, absolute political opposition. In terms of forestation, unless we have a policy that says that, in terms of these hills, they will be forested and we will not cut through them, not have roads, there needs to be some kind of dedicated effort, sincerity shown, which is what is completely lacking.
Many of these are already in place in quite a significant way. For example, we have a Citizens Environment Forum that at the ward level, and you have many members sitting right here. In fact, we should go over to them and ask them. We have something called the Mohalla Samitis, which work closely with the ward officers and who are not mandated through any electoral process except for the voluntary process of associating them. There was a whole city development plan which was developed through a lot of stakeholder consultations. The rules of the game are not framed in a transparent and enforceable manner. And that's a very big issue with India.
Now, how can people such as yourselves, who are leading figures in the city, encourage other people to take responsibility?
Pune, I must say, is a unique example in this country that there are so many initiatives and there are so many NGOs and civil society basically getting engaged in the working of the municipal corporation.
I'd like to turn over this conversation to the patient attendees here, and let's open the floor.
Infosys is following a lot of practices which are very true. Segregation of waste, transformation of water, recycling it, and making the people aware in the company that it's your responsibility to ensure that the city and the area where you are living is clear. So if this can be taken to the schools, colleges, and offices level, this would help.
Two things we must do: reduce our consumption of electricity and perhaps generate electricity.
Pune has one of the world's natural heritage sites, the Western Ghats running through it. And we had all this while 1,170 hectares which were deemed forest where nothing was allowed to be constructed at all. Suddenly, and the forest department, the forest department wanted to increase it, not just from 1,000, a few amounts, but they're talking about 10,000 to 12,000 hectares they wanted to have as a deemed forest because of this heritage site. But suddenly, with a stroke of pen, one department has reduced it down by 75% to 370 or 330 hectares. What is necessary is awareness among the people, and to encourage this, there should be more and more media. Media should follow it, and this constant dialogue between corporation, with the administrative, political and others, as well as with the industry, the academia. All the stakeholders have to come together, otherwise it will not work.
The PMC, whatever eco-conservative project that it takes under its belt, should make it available for public scrutiny at least at a quarterly basis, in which the media is involved, and the progress is reported in the newspaper or in the print media, and also suggestions from experts and critics should be taken so that we have a certain deadline to which that project will get completed.
If you can end finally with one thing, because I want us to personalize this agenda, one thing that you would like to do or you are doing already to specifically address the challenge of climate change in the city of Pune.
All of us need to really personalize it. Mode of transportation, use of bicycles is something, walking.
I think dialogue is very important. If you don't have dialogue, then you wake up to say, oh, it was wrong.
There should be a ministry, both at the central and state level, on this topic of climate change. I would be very happy to be part of the funding or sponsoring these films, which can at least start with going into the schools and colleges of Pune and other institutions.
From our side, me and my organization, our CSR arm, we have taken already a commitment to reach out to 1 lakh students in 5 years.
I would only want to keep committing myself to creating awareness about not having constructions on the hills and to make sure that they're forested.
Pune is also the city in India with the highest per capita income and the least income disparity. I think it goes a long way towards explaining the level of confidence that there is in the city for a multi-stakeholder approach to governance. And I have full faith in the pride that's exhibited by yourselves and by the audience in the city that no doubt there will be many excellent examples to follow. So thank you very much, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you again on another Cities Climate Change discussion from the Climate Challenge India. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.